AKM Visitors Report v01 LCJ 23rd of May 2024. Visit report for Mr. and Mrs. Mr. A and Mrs. M AN of 43 Hawthorne Avenue, 47 N13 4JS. New line. These notes relate to my visit to the home of Mr. A and Mrs. M KM at 47 Hawthorne Avenue, N13 4JS, where the KMs and their two children, a boy aged 12 and a girl aged 7, have lived for the past 2 months. The house is a pleasant, if unremarkable, three-bedroom terrace in a pleasant neighbourhood of similar houses. Previously, they lived in a smaller house in North Finchley, but moved to their present place about 2 months ago. It is unfurnished, all the furniture being belonging to the KMs, and recently was redecorated not long before the KMs moved in. Mr. MN is 42 years old and holds a bachelor's degree, a master's degree and a PhD from universities in Iran, where the KMs originally came from, although they are both now British citizens. Mr. KM is a specialist in water supply, sewerage and reservoir structures, though his PhD is in earthquake engineering. He is not chartered, but has a supervising mentor based in Malaysia, who has signed off all of the attributes of Mr. KM's IPD. If accepted by his ICE MDO, Mr. KM should be in a position to sit his Chartered Professional Review within about 6 months. Mrs. KM holds a first degree in architecture from an Iranian University, but is presently studying for an MSc in Civil Engineering and Management at London Metropolitan University, and hopes to graduate within a year. Mr. KM speaks very poor English and during my visit frequently referred to his wife to interpret some of my questions and to give answers. Mrs. KM is very articulate, speaks excellent English, and explained that her husband's difficulty in getting work in the UK has taken a great toll in his self-confidence. They confirmed that Mrs. KM is doing a part-time MSc, etc., and has a part-time job when she is not otherwise studying. The KMs confirmed that Mr. KM is participating in the Benevolent Funds Back to Work scheme, has been doing so for the past 2 months. They are very pleased with what the consultant is doing for them, but are very much looking forward to some positive results. Most of the applications that Mr. KM has made to companies have not been very successful. The explanation, I think, is due to his poor English and the fact that his qualifications are, at the moment, are all academic. From my own experience, I would expect that once he is chartered, he should be much more successful in obtaining job offers, or at least face-to-face interviews, which have been noticeably absent up to now. The KMs first came to the UK in 2012, and though Mrs. KM has spent most of the intervening time here, her husband has made several trips back to Iran during that time. The KM's sources of income are universal credit, personal independence payment on account of Mr. KM's disability, although he is active, he suffers from chronic back pain, which sometimes affects his mobility. Mrs. KM receives carer's allowance in addition on account of Mr. KM's poor mobility, as well as child benefit. Her only other income is from the part-time work she does while studying, though I'm not quite sure what the nature of that work is. The KMs also receive help from Mr. KM's father, through the, quotes, bank of mum and dad, unquote. And although it is not in the nature of a repayable loan, they are reluctant to depend too much on the goodwill of relations. The house they've moved into is bigger than their previous one, and they've not yet established quite what the change in regular outgoings, utility bills, cost of travel, taking their children to school, which is still the one they attended while the family lived in North Finchley, and the cost of special needs provision for their son, who suffers from ADHD. As a result, they're not exactly clear yet as to what their regular outgoings will be, but did say that the money that they receive from state benefit amounts to about $3,500 a month, of which universal credit is between $2,000 and $2,500. Until such time as Mr. KM gets a job, the KM's monthly shortfall is between £1,000 and £1,500 a month. This need would cease once Mr. KM gets a job and Mrs. KM completes her Masters, when I would expect their monthly income to be of the nature of between £70,000 and £80,000 a year before tax. Although not strictly relevant to their benevolent fund application, I did say that if Mr. KM needed help or advice with his professional development that his mentor in Malaysia was unable or unwilling to provide, I'd be happy to help him with his gaining his chartership, but that would not be for at least another 2 months. That more or less concluded the questions and answers. My questions and the KM's answers in the course of my visit, and the KM's seemed very pleased with how the visit and the questioning had gone, and I said that from now on the decision as to what help they might be provided with by the Benevolent Fund rested with your report to trustees and their decision. Lee C. Jones, 23rd of May 2024.